Page
It's
roughly are we?
731, Jane, in Modern Library.
Thank you, Bill.
There you go.
About how many pages into the episode are we?
Nice. Yeah.
Mm,
Not many.
many.
1, 2,
About 7.
3, 4,
Thank you.
5, 6, 7. Yeah, maybe 8. Well, it depends on your edition.
Yeah.
1,
I'm
2,
on the Penguin.
3, 4, 5.
Okay, David Little is going here. Let me add David to the list here.
I'm not gonna, I don't know.
Wordsworth, please.
I don't know where.
Wordsworth is 648.
Oh, great. Thank you.
For the biggest selection of premium cheap smokes in Canada. Why pay an arm and a leg when you can choose from the widest range of smokes at unbeatable prices? At Select Smoke, we take.
Oh. Can't,
Sorry.
That's
Oh,
okay.
I
That
can see
happens.
I can see where it is now. I
You
just
got it?
need,
Okay. So
I need
I'll
to get my glasses.
I'll mention once again, I put as much of the information as possible in the Facebook announcement on the James Joyce Readers group. So if you are on Facebook, it'll probably help you if you go to James Joyce Readers just before and see what the announcement says. I put the pages of as many editions as I have, and then I put a key line in there. So, okay. Let me mention to the folks that may be watching this later on YouTube video that we are continuing our reading of Molly's soliloquy at the end. And I'll put a key phrase in the description of the video as well, if you want to read along while you're watching the video. And here we go. Let me get myself straight. Okay. I had to take it off, asking me questions. Is it permitted to inquire the shape of my bedroom? So I let him keep it, as if I forgot it to think of me when I saw him slip it into his pocket. Of course, he's mad on the subject of drawers. That's plain to be seen. Oh, he's skeezing at those brazen face things on the bicycles with their skirts blowing up to their navels. Even when Millie and I were out with him at the open air fete, that one in the cream muslin standing right against the sun so he could see every atom she had on. When he saw me from behind following in on the rain, I saw him before he saw me. However, standing at the corner of Harold's Cross Road with a new raincoat on him, with a muffler in the Zingari colors to show off his complexion, and the brown hat looking sly boots as usual, what was he doing then? Where he had no business, they can go and get whatever they like from anything at all with a skirt on it. And we're not to ask any questions, but they want to know, where were you? Where were you going? I could feel him coming along, skulking after me, his eyes on my neck. He had been keeping away from the house. He felt it was getting too warm for him. So I half turned and stopped. Then he pestered me to say yes, till I took my glove off slowly, watching him. He said my open work sleeves were too cold for the rain. Anything for an excuse to put his hands near me, drawers, the whole blessed time, till I promised to give him the pair off my doll to carry around in his waistcoat pocket. Oh, Maria Santissima. He did look a big fool, dripping in the rain, splendid set of teeth. He had He had made me hungry to look at then, and beseeched me to lift the orange petticoat I had on, with sunray pleats, so that there was nobody, he said. He'd kneel down in the wet if I didn't, so persevering he could be, too, and ruin his new raincoat. You never know what freak they'd take along with them. They're so savage for it. if anyone was passing. So I lifted him a bit and touched his trousers outside the way I used to Gardner. After with my ring hand to keep him from doing worse, where it was too public. I was dying to find out, was he circumcised? He was shaking like a jelly all over. They want to do everything too quick, take all the pleasure out of it. And father waiting all the time for his dinner. Next, please.
He told me to say I left my purse in the butcher's and had to go back for it. What a deceiver. Then he wrote me that letter with all those words in it. How could he have the face to any woman after his company? Manners, making it so awkward after when we met, asking me, have I offended you? With my eyelids down. Of course, he saw I wasn't. He had a few brains, not like that other fool, Henny Doyle. He was always breaking or tearing something in the charades. I hate an unlucky man. And if I knew what it meant, of course, I had to say no for form's sake. Don't understand you, I said. And wasn't it natural? So it is, of course. Used to be written up with a picture of a woman's on that wall in Gibraltar with that word. I couldn't find anywhere, only for children seeing it too young. Then writing a letter every morning, sometimes twice a day. I liked the way he made love then. He knew the way to take a woman. When he sent me the 8 big poppies, because mine was the 8th, then I wrote the night he kissed my heart at Dolphin's Barn. I couldn't describe it. Simply makes you feel like nothing on earth. But he never knew how to embrace well like Gardner. I hope he'll come on Monday, as he said at the same time for. I hate people who come at all hours. Answer the door, you think it's the vegetables, then it's somebody, then you all undressed. Or the door of the filthy, sloppy kitchen blows open the day old frosty-faced Goodwin called about the concert in Lombard Street, and I, just after dinner, all flushed and tossed with boiling old stew. Don't look at me, Professor, I had to say. I'm a fright, yes, but he was a real old gent in his way. It was impossible to be more respectful. Nobody to say you're out. You have to peep out through the blind like the messenger boy today. I thought it was a put-off first, him sending the port and the peaches first, and I was just beginning to yawn with nerves, thinking he was trying to make a fool of me, when I knew his tat-a-rat-tat at the door. Next, please.
He must have been a bit late, because it was 3:15 when I saw the 2 Daedalus girls coming from school. I never know the time even. That watch you gave me never seems to go properly. I'd want to get it looked at after, when I threw the penny to that lame sailor for England, Home and Beauty, when I was whistling There Is a Charming Girl I Love, and I hadn't even put on my clean shift or powdered myself or a thing then this day week, or to go to Belfast. Just as well he has to go to Ennis, his father's anniversary, the 27th. It wouldn't be pleasant if he did. Suppose her rooms at the hotel were beside each other and any fooling went on in the new bed. I couldn't tell him to stop and not bother me with him in the next room, or perhaps some Protestant clergyman with a cough knocking on the wall. Then he wouldn't believe next day we didn't do something. It's all very well a husband can't fool a lover. After me telling him we never did anything, of course he didn't believe me. No, it's better he's going where he is. Besides, something always happens with him. The time going to the Mallow concert at Maryborough, ordering boiling soup for the 2 of us. Then the bell rang, out he walks down the platform with the soup splashing about, taking spoonfuls of it. Hadn't he the nerve, and the waiter after him making a holy show of his screeching and confusion for the engine to start, but he wouldn't pay till he finished it. The 2 gentlemen in the 3rd-class carriage said he was quite right. So he was too. He's so pig-headed sometimes when he gets a thing into his head. A good job he was able to open the carriage door with his knife, or they'd have taken us on to Cork. I suppose that was done out of revenge on him. Oh, I love jaunting in a train or a car with lovely soft cushions. I wonder, will he take first class for me? He might want to do it in the train by tipping the guard. Well, I suppose it'll be the usual idiots of men gaping at us with their eyes as stupid as ever they can possibly be. That was an exceptional man, that common workman that left us alone in the carriage that day going to Holt. I'd like to find out something about him, one or two tunnels perhaps. Then you have to look out of the window, all the nicer then coming back. Suppose I never came back. What would they say? Eloped with him. That gets you on the stage. The last concert I sang at, where it's over a year ago, when was it? St. Teresa's Hall, Clarendon Street. Little chits of missies they have now singing Kathleen Kearney and her like, on account of father being in the army and my singing the absent-minded beggar and wearing a brooch for Lord Roberts when I had the map of it all, and Poldy not Irish enough. Was it him managed it this time? I wouldn't put it past him, like he got me on to sing in the Stabat Mater by going around saying he was putting lead kindly light to music. I put him up to that till the Jesuits found out he was a Freemason, thumping the piano lead. Thou me uncopied from some old opera. Yes. Next, please.
Yes. And he was going about with some of them Sinn Fein, lately, or whatever they call themselves, talking his usual trash and nonsense. He says that little man he showed me without the neck is very intelligent, the coming man. Griffiths, is he? Well, he doesn't look it. That's all I can say. Still, it must have been him. He knew there was a boycott. I hate the mention of their politics after the war with that Pretoria and Ladysmith and Bloemfontein, where Gardner Lieutenant Stanley G. 8th Battalion, 2nd East Lance Regiment of enteric fever. He was a lovely fellow in khaki and just the right height over me. I'm sure he was brave, too. He said I was lovely. The evening we kissed goodbye at the canal lock, my Irish beauty, he was pale with excitement about going away, or we'd be seen from the road. He couldn't stand properly, and I so hot as I never felt. They could have made their peace in the beginning, or old Paul and the rest of the other old Krugers go and fight it out between them instead of dragging on for years, killing any fine-looking man there were with their fever. If he was even decently shot, it wouldn't have been so bad. I love to see a regiment pass in review. The first time I saw the Spanish cavalry at La Roque, it was lovely after looking across the bay from Algeciras, all the lights of the rocks like fireflies, or those sham battles on the 15 acres, the Black Watch with their kilts in time at the march past, the 10th Hussars, the Prince of Wales' own, or the Lancers. Oh, the Lancers, they're grand. Or the Dublins that won Tugela. His father made his money over selling the horses for the cavalry. Next, please.
Well, he could buy me a nice present up in Belfast after what I gave. They've lovely linen up there, or one of those nice kimono things. I must buy a mothball like I had before to keep in the drawer with them. It would be exciting going around with him shopping, buying those things in a new city. Better leave this ring behind. Want to keep turning and turning to get it over the knuckle there. Or they might bell it around the town in their papers or tell the police on me. But they think we're married. Oh, let them all go and smother themselves for the fat lot I care. He has plenty of money and he's not a marrying man. So somebody better get it out of him. If I could find out whether he likes me. I looked a bit washy, of course, when I looked close in the hand glass, powdering a mirror. Never gives you the expression, besides scrooching down on me like that all the time with his big hip bones. He's heavy too, with his hairy chest for this heat, always having to lie down for them. Better for him, put it into me from behind, the way Mrs. Mastiansky told me her husband made her, like the dogs do it, and stick out her tongue as far as ever she could, and he's so quiet and mild with his tin gating. Either can you ever be up to men the way it takes them. Lovely stuff in the blue in that blue suit he had on, and stylish tie and socks with the sky blue suit things on them. He's certainly well off, I know, by the cut of his clothes. Have and his sorry, I know by the cut his clothes have, and his heavy watch. But he was a perfect devil for a few minutes after he came back with the stop press, tearing up the tickets and swearing blazes because he lost 20 quid. He said he lost over that outsider, that 1.5 he put on for me on account of Lennon's tip, cursing him to the lowest pits, that sponger he was making free with me after the Glencree dinner, coming back that long jout over the Featherbed Mountain after the Lord Mayor looking at me with his dirty eyes. Val Dillon, that big heathen, I first noticed him at dessert when I was cracking the nuts with my teeth. I wished I could have picked every morsel of that chicken out of my fingers. It was so tasty and browned, and as tender as anything, only for I didn't want to eat everything on my plate. Those forks and fish slicers were hallmark silver too. I wish I had some. I could easily have slipped a couple into my muff when I was playing with them, then always hanging out of them for money in a restaurant for the bit you put down your throat. We have to be thankful for our mangy cup of tea itself as a great compliment to be noticed the way the world is divided in any case, if it's going to go on. I want at least 2 other good chemises, for one thing. But I don't know what kind of drawers he likes. None at all, I think. Didn't he say yes, and half the girls in Gibraltar never wore them, either naked as God made them? That Andalusian singing her Manola, she didn't make much secret of what she hadn't. Yes, and the second pair of silkette stockings is laddered after one day's wear. I could have brought them back to Lures this morning and kicked up a row and made that one change them, only not to upset myself and run the risk of walking into him and ruining the whole thing. And one of those kid-fitting corsets I'd want advertised cheap in the Gentlewoman, with what do they say? They give a delightful figure line, 11 to 6, obviating that unsightly broad appearance across the lower back to reduce flesh. My belly is a bit too big. Next, please.
I'll have to knock off the stout at dinner, or am I getting too fond of it? The last they sent from O'Rourke's was as flat as a pancake. He makes his money easy. Larry, they call him. The old mangy parcel he sent at Xmas, a cottage cake, a bottle of hogwash he tried to pub up his claret that he couldn't get anyone to drink. God spare his spit for fear he'd die of the drought. Or I must do a few breathing exercises. I wonder, is that anti-fat any good? Might overdo it. The thin ones are not so much the fashion now. God is that much I have. The violet pear. I wore today. That's all he bought me out of the check he got on the 1st. Oh no, there was the face lotion I finished the last of yesterday. That made my skin like new. I told him over and over again, get that made up in the same place and don't forget it. God only knows whether he did. After all, I said to him, I'll know by the bottle anyway. If not, I suppose I'll only have to wash in my piss like beef tea or chicken soup with some of that apoponics and violet. I thought it was beginning to look coarse or old. A bit the skin underneath is much finer. Where it peeled off there on my finger after the burn, it's a pity it isn't all like that. And the 4 paltry handkerchiefs, about 6. In all, Sure, you can't get on in this world without style. All going in food and rent. When I get it, I'll lash it around. I tell you, in fine style. I always want to throw a handful of tea into the pot, measuring and mincing, if I buy a pair of old brogues itself. Do you like these new shoes? Yes. How much were they? I've no clothes at all. The brown costume, the skirt and jacket, and the one for cleaners. 3, what's that for, Eddie woman? Cutting up this old hat and patching up the other. The men won't look at you, and women try to walk at you because they know you've no man. Then with all the things getting dearer every day, for the 4 years more I have of life, up to 35. No, what am I? I'll be 33 in September. Will I? Oh, well, look at that Mrs. Galbraith. She's much older than me. I saw her when I was out last week. Her beauty's on the wane. She was a lovely woman, magnificent head of hair on her, down to her waist, tossing it back like that, like Kitty O'Shea in Grantham Street. First thing I did every morning to look across, see her combing it, as if she loved it, and was full of it. Pity I only got to know her the day before we left. And that Mrs. Langtry, the Jersey Lily, the Prince of Wales was in love with, I suppose. He's like the first man going the roads, only for the name of the king. They're all made that one way, only a black man's. I'd like to try. A beauty up to what she was. She was 45. There was some funny story about jealous old husband. What was it? And an oyster knife he went? No, he made her wear a kind of tin thing around her. And the Prince of Wales, yes. He had the oyster knife. Can't be true. A thing like that. Some of those books he brings me. The works of Master Francois somebody. Next.
Supposed to be a priest about a child born out of her ear because her bum gut fell out. A nice word for any priest to write. And her arse, as if any fool would know what that meant. I hate that, pretending of all things with the old blackguard space on them. Anybody can see it's not true. And that ruby and fair tyrants he brought me that twice, I remember, when I came to page 50, the part about where she hangs him up out of a book with a cord, flagellate. Sure, there's nothing for a woman in that. All invention, made up about he drinking the champagne out of her slipper after the ball was over, like the infant Jesus in the crib at Inchicore in the Blessed Virgin's arms. Sure, no woman could have a child that big taken out of her. And I thought first it came out of her side, because how could she go to the chamber when she wanted to? And she, a rich lady, of course, she felt honored. His Royal Highness. He was in Gibraltar the year I was born. I bet he found lilies there too, where he planted the tree. He planted more than that in his time. He might have planted me too if he'd come a bit sooner, and I wouldn't be here as I am. He ought to chuck that Freeman with the paltry few shillings he knocks out of it, and go into an office or something where he'd get regular pay, or a bank where they could put him up on a throne to count the money all the day. Of course, he prefers pottering about the house, so you can't stir without him any side. What's your program today? I wish he'd even smoke a pipe like father to get the smell of a man, or pretending to be mooching about for advertisements, when he could have been in Mr. Cuff's still only for what he did, then sending me to try and patch it up. I could have got him promoted there to be the manager. He gave me a great brada once, or twice. First he was as stiff as the mischief, really. Really and truly, Mrs. Bloom, only I felt rotten, simply with the old rubbishy dress that I lost the leads out of. The tails with no cut in it. But they're coming into fashion again. I bought it simply to please him. I knew it was no good by the finish. Pity I changed my mind, going to Todd and Burns, as I said, and not Lee's. It was just like the shop itself, rummage sale, a lot of trash. I hate those rich shops. Get on your nerves. Nothing kills me altogether, only he thinks he knows a great lot about a woman's dress and cooking, mattering everything he can scar off the shelves into it. If I went by his advices, every blessed hat I put on, does that suit me? Yes. Take that. That's all right. The one like a wedding cake standing up miles off my head. And he said suited me. Or the dish cover one coming down on my backside on pins and needles about the shop girl in that place in Grafton Street I had the misfortune to bring him into. And she, as insolent as ever she could be, with her smirk, saying, I'm afraid we're giving you too much trouble. What's he there for? But I stared out of her. Yes, he was awfully stiff, and no wonder. But he changed the second time. He looked coldy, pig-headed as usual, like the soup. But I could see him looking very hard at my chest when he stood up to open the door for me. It was nice of him to show me out in any case. I'm extremely sorry, Mrs. Bloom. Believe me, without making it too marked, the first time after him being insulted and me being supposed to be his wife, I just half smiled. I know my chest was out that way at the door when he said, I'm extremely sorry, and I'm sure you were. Next, please.
Yes, I think he made them a bit firmer, sucking them like that so long. He made me thirsty titties, he calls them, and I had to laugh. Yes, this one anyhow, stiff. The nipple gets for the least thing. I'll get him to keep that up, and I'll take those eggs beaten up with Marcella, fatten them out for him. What are all those veins and things? Curious the way it's made too. The same in case of twins. They're supposed to represent beauty placed up there, like those statues in the museum, one of them pretending to hide it with her hand. Are they so beautiful, of course, compared with what a man looks like with his two bags full and his other thing hanging down out of him or sticking up at you like a hat rack? No wonder they hide it with a cabbage leaf, that disgusting Cameron Highlander behind the meat market, or that other wretch with the red head behind the tree, where the statue of the fish used to be, when I was passing, pretending he was pissing, standing out for me to see it with his baby clothes up to one side. The Queens, oh, they were a nice lot. It's well the Surreys relieved them. They're always trying to show it to you every time. Nearly, I passed outside the men's greenhouse near the Harcourt Street station. Just some fellow or other trying to catch my eye, as if it was one of the seven wonders of the world, and all the stink of those rotten places the night coming home with Poldy after the Comerfords party, oranges and lemonade to make you feel nice and watery. Went into one of them. It was so biting cold I couldn't keep it when was that? 92. The canal was frozen. Yes, it was a few months after. A pity a couple of the Camerons weren't there to see me squatting in the men's place. Madero. I tried to draw a picture of it before I tore it up like a sausage or something. I wonder they're not afraid going about getting a kick or a bang of something there. The woman is the beauty, of course, that's admitted. When he said I could pose for a picture naked to some rich fellow in Hollis Street when he lost a job in Healy's, and I was selling the clothes and strumming the coffee palace, would I be like that bath of the nymph with my hair down? Yes, only she's younger, or I'm a little like that dirty bitch in the Spanish photo he has. Nymphs, they used to go about like that. I asked him about her, and that word meant something with horses in it, and he came up with some jawbreakers about the incarnation. He can never explain a thing simply the way a body can understand. Then he goes and burns the bottom out of the pan all for his kidney. This one not so much. Oh, there's the mark of his teeth still where he tried to bite the nipple. I had to scream out. Aren't they fearful, trying to hurt you? I had a great breast of milk with Millie, enough for two. What was the reason of that, he said. I could have got £1 a week as a wet nurse, all swelled out. The morning that delicate-looking student that stopped in, number 28, with the citrons, Penrose, nearly caught me washing through the window, only for I snapped up the towel to my face. That was his studenting. Hurt me. They used to weaning her, till he got Dr. Brady to give me the belladonna prescription. I had to get him to suck them. They were so hard. He said it was sweeter and thicker than cows. Then he wanted to milk me into the tea. Well, he's beyond anything, I declare. Somebody ought to put him in the budget. If only I could remember one half of the things and write in a book out of it the words of Master Poldy. Yes, and it's so much smoother, the skin. Much an hour he was at them, I'm sure, by the clock, like some kind of big infant I had at me. They want everything in their mouth, all the pleasure those men get out of a woman. I can feel his mouth. Oh, Lord, I must stretch myself. I wish he was here, or somebody to let myself go with and come again. Like that, I feel all fire inside me, or if I could dream it when he made me spend the second time tickling me behind with his finger. I was coming about 5 minutes with my legs round him. I had to hug him after. Oh, Lord, I wanted to shout all sorts of things, fuck or shit or anything at all, only not to look ugly or those lines from the strain. Who knows the way he'd take it? You want to feel your way with a man. They're not all like him, thank God. Some of them want you to be so nice about it. I noticed the contrast. He does it and doesn't talk. I gave my eyes that look, with my hair a bit loose from the tumbling, and my tongue between my lips, up to him, the savage brute. Thursday, Friday, 1 Saturday, 2 Sunday, 3, Lord, I can't wait till Monday. Next.
From train, somewhere whirling the strength of those engines have in them, like big giants, and the water rolling all over and out of them, all sides like the ends of love's sweet sonning. The poor men that have to be out all night from their wives and families in those roasting engines. Stifling it was today. I'm glad I burned half of those Freemans and photo bits, leaving things like that lying about. He's getting very careless, and threw the rest of them up in the WC. I'll get him to cut them tomorrow for me, instead of having them there for the next year to get a few pence for them. Have him asking, where's last January's paper? And all those overcuts are bundled out of the hall, making the place hotter than it is. That rain was lovely and refreshing just after my beauty sleep. I thought it was going to get like Gibraltar. My goodness, the heat there before the lavender came on, black as night, the glare of the rocks standing up in it like a big giant compared to their 3-rock mountain. They think is so great with the red sentries here and there, the poplars, and they all white hot and smell of rainwater in those tanks, watching the sun all the time weltering down on you. Feed it that lovely frock. Father's friend, Mrs. Stanhope, sent to me from Bemarsh, Paris. What a shame, my dearest Doggerina, she wrote on it. She was very nice. What's this her other name was? Just PC to tell you I sent a little present that has just had a jolly warm bath and feel a very clean dog now. Enjoyed it. Wogger, she called him. Wogger, we'd give anything to be back in Gibraltar and hear you singing. Waiting, and old Madrid. Concorn is the name of those exercises. He brought me one of those new words. I couldn't make our shawls. Amusing things, but tear for the least thing. Still, they're lovely. I don't think you will always think of the lovely teas we had together. Scrumptious currant buns and raspberry wafers. I adore. Well now, dearest Doggerina, be sure and write soon. Kind she left out regards to your father. Also Captain Grove, with love, yours awfully, Hester. Kiss, kiss, kiss. She didn't look a bit married, just like a girl. He was years older than her Walker. He was awfully fond of me, when he held down the wire with his foot for me to step over at the bullfight with La Lina. When that matador Gomez was given the bull's ear, these clothes we have to wear, whoever invented them, expecting you to walk up Killiney Hill then, for example, at the picnic. Next,
all stayed you up can't do a blessed thing in them in a crowd, run or jump out of the way. That's why I was afraid when that other ferocious old bull began to charge the bandoleros with the sashes and the two things in their hats and the brutes of men shouting, Bravo, Toro, sure. Sure, the women were as bad as in their nice white Matillas, ripping all the whole inside out of those poor horses. I never heard of such a thing in all my life. Yes, he used to break his heart at me, taking off the dog barking in Bell Lane, poor brute, and it's sick what became of them ever, I suppose. They're dead long ago, the two of them. It's like all through a mist makes you feel so old. I made the scones, of course. I had everything all to myself. Then a girl, Hester, we used to compare our hair. Mine was the thicker than hers. She showed me how to settle it as the back when I put it up, and what's this else, how to make a knot on a thread with the one hand. We were like cousins. What age was I then? The night of the storm, I slept in her bed. She had her arms around me then. We were fighting in the morning with the pillow. What fun he was watching me. Whatever he got an opportunity at the bend on the Alameda Esplanade. When I was with Father and Captain Grove, I looked up at the church first, and then at the windows, then down, and our eyes met. I felt something go through me, like all needles. My eyes were dancing. I remember after when I looked at myself in the glass, hardly recognizing myself. The change I had, a splendid skin from the sun and the excitement like a rose. I didn't get a wink of sleep. It would have been nice on account of her, but I could have stopped it in time. She gave me the Moonstone to read. That was the first I read of Wilkie Collins. East Lynn, I read, and The Shadows of Ashley Dat, Mrs. Henry Wood, Henry Dunbar, by the other woman. I lent him afterwards with Mulvey's photo in it so he could see I wasn't without. And Lord Lytton Eugene Aram Molly Bourne gave me by Mrs. Hungerford on account of the name. I don't like books with a Molly in them like that one he bought me about the one from Flanders, a whore always shoplifting anything she could, clothes and stuff and yards of it. This blanket is too heavy on me. That's better. I haven't even one decent nightdress. This thing gets all rolled up under me. Besides him and his fooling, that's better. I used to be weltering then in the heat, my shift drenched with the sweat stuck in the cheeks of my bottom on the chair. When I stood up, they were so fattish and firm. When I got up on the sofa cushion to see with my clothes up and the bugs, tons of them at night, and the mosquito nets, I couldn't read a line. Lord, how long ago it seems, centuries of course. They never came back, and she didn't put her address right on it either. She may have noticed her Wagger people were always going away, and we never. I remember the day with the waves and the boats with their high heads rocking and the swell of the ship whose officers' uniforms on shore leave made me seasick. He didn't say anything. He was very serious. I had the high button boots on and my skirt was blowing. She kissed me 6 or 7 times. Didn't I cry? Yes, I believe I did, or near it. My lips were tittering when I said goodbye. She had a gorgeous wrap of some special kind of blue colour on her, for the voyage made very peculiarly to one side, like, and it was extremely pretty. It got as dull as the devil after they went. I was almost planning to run away, mad out of it, somewhere were never easy, where father or aunt or marriage, waiting always, waiting to guide him to me, waiting, nor speed his flying feet, their damn guns bursting and booming all over the shop, especially the Queen's birthday, and throwing everything down in all directions if you didn't open the windows when General Ulysses Grant, whoever he was or did suppose to be some great fellow, landed off the ship, and old Sprague, the consul that was there from before the flood, dressed up poor man, and he in mourning for the son, then the same old reveille in the morning, and drums rolling, and the unfortunate poor devils of soldiers walking about with mess tins, smelling the place more than the old long-bearded Jews in their Jubilees and Levites assembly, and sound clear and gunfire for the men to cross the lines, and the warden marching with his keys to lock the gates and the bagpipes, and only Captain Groves and fathers talking about Rourke's Drift and Plevna and Sir Garnet Wolsey and Gordon at Khartoum, lighting their pipes for them every time they went out, drunken old devil with his grog on the windowsill, catch him weaving any of it, picking his nose, trying to think of some dirty story to tell up in a corner, but he never forgot himself. When I was there, sending out of the room on some blind excuse, paying his compliments, the Bushmills whiskey, talking, of course. But he'd do the same to the next woman that came along, I supposed. He died of galloping drink ages ago, the daylight years. Not a letter from a living soul except the odd few I posted to myself with bits of paper in them, so bored sometimes I could fight with my nails. Next, please.
Listening to that old Arab with the one eye and his of an instrument singing his hey, hey, hey. All my compliments on your touch of your his as bad as now, with the hands hanging off me, looking out the window. If there was another fellow, even in the opera house, not going High Street, the nurse was after. After when I put on my gloves and hat at the window to show I was going out, not a notion what I meant. Aren't they thick? Never understand what you say. Even you'd want to print it on a big poster for them. Not even if you shake hands twice with the left. He didn't recognize me. Either when I half frowned at him out Westland Row Chapel. Where does their great intelligence come in? I'd like to know. Gray matter. They have it all in their tail, if you ask me. Those country gougers up in City Arms Intelligence, they had a damn sight less than the bulls and cows they were selling the meat in the Coleman bell. That noisy bugger, trying to swindle me with the wrong bill he took out of his hat. What a pair of paws, and pots and pans and kettles to mend. Any broken bottles for a poor man today? And no visitors or post ever, except his checks or some advertisement like that wonder worker. They sent him addressed to Dear Madam, only his letter and card from Millie this morning. See, she wrote a letter to him. Who did I get the last letter from, Mrs. O'Dren? Now, whatever possessed her to write after so many years, to know the recipe I had for Pisto Madrileno? Chloe Dillon, since she wrote to me, said she was married to a very rich architect. If I'm to believe all I hear with the villa and 8 rooms, her father was an awfully nice man. He was near 70, always good humor. Well, now, Miss Tweedy or Miss Gillespie, there's a piano that was a solid silver coffee service. He had 2 on the mahogany sideboard. Then dying so far away. I hate people when they have always their poor story to tell everybody with their troubles that poor Nancy Blake died of a month ago of acute pneumonia. Well, I didn't know her so well as all that. She was Chloe's friend, more than mine. It's a bother having to answer. He's always telling me the wrong things and no stops to say, like making a speech, your sad bereavement. Sympathy. I always make that mistake. And nephew with the double U's. And I hope he'll write me a longer letter the next time. If it's a thing, he really likes me. Oh, thanks be to the great God, I got someone to give me what I badly wanted, to put some heart up into me. You've no chance at all in this place like you used long ago. I wish someone would write me a love letter. His wasn't much. I told him he could write what he liked. Yours ever after, Hugh Boylan in Old Madrid. Silly woman. Silly women believe love is sign. I'm dying still if he wrote it. I suppose there'd be some truth in it, true or not. It fills up your whole day. And life always something to think about every moment. Next.
And see it all around you like a new world. I could write the answer in bed to let him imagine me short in just a few words, not those long cross letters Addie Dillon used to write to the fellow. That was something in the four courts that jilted her after out of the lady's letter writer when I told her to say a few simple words he could twist how he liked, not acting with the precipitancy with equal candor, the greatest earthly happiness answer to a gentleman's proposal affirmatively. My goodness, there's nothing else. It's all very fine for them. But as for being a woman, as soon as you're old, they might as well throw you out in the bottom of the ash pit. Mulvey's was the first when I was in bed that morning, and Mrs. Rubio brought it in with the coffee. She stood there standing when I asked her to hand me, and I pointing at them, I couldn't think of the word, a hairpin to open it with. Ah, Horkia, disobliging old thing. And it staring her in the face with her switch of false hair on her, and vain about her appearance, ugly as she was, 80 or 100, her face a mass of wrinkles, with all her religion domineering, because she never could get over the Atlantic fleet coming in half ships of the world, and the Union Jack flying, with all her carabineros, because 4 drunken English sailors took all the rock from them, and because I didn't run into Mass often enough in Santa Maria to please her, with her shawl up on her, except when there was a marriage on, with all her miracles of the saints, and her black blessed Virgin with the silver dress, and the sun dancing 3 times on Easter Sunday morning. And when the priest was going by with the bell, bringing the Vatican to the dying, blessing herself for his majestat on admirer, he signed it. I near jumped out of my skin. I wanted to pick him up when I saw him following me along the Calle Real in the shop window. Then he tipped me just in passing. I never thought he'd write making an appointment. I had it inside my petticoat bodice all day, reading it up in every hole and corner, while father was up at the drill, instructing to find out by the handwriting or the language of stamps, singing, I remember, shall I wear a white rose? And I wanted to put on the old stupid clock to near the time. He was the first man kissed me under the Moorish wall, my sweetheart. Next, please.
When a boy, it never entered my head what kissing meant till he put his tongue in my mouth. His mouth was sweet like young. I put my knee up to him a few times to learn the way. What did I tell him? I was engaged for fun to the son of a Spanish nobleman named Don Miguel de la Flora, and he believed that I was to be married to him in 3 years' time. There's many a true word spoken in jest. There is a flower that bloometh. A few things I told him true about myself, just for him to be imagining the Spanish girls he didn't like. I suppose one of them wouldn't have him. I got him excited. He crushed all the flowers on my bosom he brought me. He couldn't count the pesetas and peragordas till I taught him. Capaquin he came from, he said, on the Blackwater. But it was too short then. The day before he left, May, Yes, it was May when the infant king of Spain was born. I'm always like that in the spring. I'd like a new fellow every year. Up on the tip-top under the rock gun near O'Hara's tower, I told him it was struck by lightning and all about the old Barbary apes they sent to Clapham without a tail, careering all over the show on each other's back. Mrs. Rubio said she was our regular old rock scorpion, robbing the chickens out of Inch's farm and throwing stones at you if you went near. He was looking at me. I had that white blouse open at the front to encourage him as much as I could without too openly. They were just beginning to be plump. I said I was tired. We lay over the Fir Tree Cove, a wild place. I suppose it must be the highest rock in existence. The galleries and casemates and those frightful rocks and San Michel's cave with the icicles or whatever they call them hanging down and lathers, all the mud plodging my boots. I'm sure that's the way down the monkeys go under the sea to Africa when they die. The ships out far like chips. That was the Malta boat passing. Yes, the sea and the sky. You could do what you like. Lie there forever. He caressed them outside. They love doing that. It's the roundness. There I was leaning over him with my white rice straw hat to take the newness out of it, the left side of my face, the best. My blouse open for his last day, transparent kind of shirt he had. I could see his chest, pink. He wanted to touch mine with his for a moment, but I wouldn't let him. He was awfully put out. First, for you never know, consumption, or leave me with the child. And Barazad, the old servant in his, told me that one drop, even if it got into you at all, after I tried with the banana, but I was afraid it might break and get lost up in me somewhere. Yes, because they once took something down out of a woman that was up there for years, covered in lime salts. They're all mad to get in there. Where they come out of, you'd think they could never get far enough up, and then they're done with you in a way till the next time. Yes, because there's a wonderful feeling there all the time, so tender. How did we finish it off? Yes, oh, yes, I pulled him off into my handkerchief, pretending not to be excited, but I opened my legs. I wouldn't let him touch me inside my petticoat. I had a skirt opening up the side. I tortured the life out of him, first tickling him. I loved rousing that dog in the hotel. His eyes shut and a bird flying below us. He was shy all the same. I liked him. Like that morning, I made him blush a little when I got over him that way, when I unbuttoned him and took out and drew back the skin. It had a kind of eye in it. They're all buttons, men down the middle on the wrong side of them. Molly, darling, he called me. What was his name? Jack. Joe. Harry Mulvey, was it? Yes, I think he is a lieutenant. He was rather fair. He had a laughing kind of a voice. So I went around to the, what you call it, everything was, what you call it, moustache he had. He said he'd come back. Lord, it's just like yesterday. Katrina.
It's just like yesterday to me. And if I was married, he'd do it to me. And I promised him, yes, faithfully, I'd let him block me now flying. Perhaps he's dead or killed or a captain or an admiral. It's nearly 20 years. If I said Fir Tree Cove, he would, if he came up behind me and put his hands over my eyes to guess who I might recognize him. He's young still, about 40. Perhaps he's married some girl on the Blackwater and is quite changed. They all do. They haven't half the character a woman has. She little knows what I did with her beloved husband before he ever dreamt of her in broad daylight, too, in the sight of the whole world, you might say. They could have put an article about it in the Chronicle. I was a bit wild after when I blew out the old bag the biscuits were in the from Benedict Brothers and exploded it. Lord, what a bang! All the woodcocks and pigeons screaming, coming back the same way that we went over the middle hill, round by the old guardhouse and the Jews' burial place, pretending to read out the Hebrew on them. I wanted to fire his pistol. He said he hadn't one. He didn't know what to make of me with the peak cap on that he always wore crooked as often as I settled it straight. HMS Calypso swinging my hat, that old bishop that spoke of the altar, his long preach about women's higher functions, about girls now riding the bicycle and wearing peak caps, and the new woman bloomers. God sent him sense and me more money. I suppose they're called after him. I never thought that would be my name, Bloom, when I used to write it in print to see how it looked on a visiting card or practicing for the butcher and obliged Mr. Bloom. You're looking blooming. Josie used to say after I married him, well, it's better than Breen or Briggs. Does Brigg or those awful names with bottom in them? Mrs. Ramsbottom or some other kind of bottom. Mulvey, I wouldn't go mad about either. Or suppose I divorced him. Mrs. Boylan, my mother, whoever she was, might have given me a nicer name. The Lord knows, after the lovely ones she had, Lunita Laredo, the fun we had running along Willis Road to Europa Point, twisting in and out all round the other side of Jersey. They were shaking and dancing about in my blouse like Millie's little ones now when she runs up the stairs. I love looking down at them. I was jumping up at the pepper tree and the white poplars, pulling the leaves off and throwing them at him. He went to India. He was to write the voyages those men have to make to the ends of the world and back. It's the least they might get a squeeze or two at a woman while they can, going out to be drowned or blown up somewhere. I went up Windmill Hill to the flats that Sunday morning with Captain Rubios that was dead. Spyglass like the sentry had. He said he'd have one or two from the board. I wore the frocks from the Bon Marché Paris and the coral necklace, the straight shining. I could see over to Morocco, almost the Bay of Tangier, white, and the Atlas Mountains with snow on it, and the straits like a river so clear. Harry, Molly, darling, I was thinking of him on the sea all the time after that mass. My petticoat began to slip down at the elevation. Weeks and weeks. Next, please.
I kept the handkerchief under my pillow for the smell of him. There was no decent perfume to be got in that Gibraltar, only that cheap eau d'Espagne that faded and left a stink on you more than anything else. I wanted to give him a memento. He gave me that clumsy clatter ring for luck that I gave Gardner going to South Africa, where those Boers killed him with their war and fever. But they were well beaten all the same, as if it brought its bad luck with it, like an opal or pearl must have been pure 16-carat gold, because it was very heavy. I can see his face clean shaven, foreseeing from that train again, weeping tone once in the dear days beyond recall. Close my eyes, breathe my lips forward, kiss sad look eyes, open piano, ere o'er the world the mists began. I hate that its beg comes love's sweet song. I let that out full when I get out in front of the footlights again, Kathleen Carney and her lot of squealers. Miss this, miss that, miss the other. Lot of sparrowfarts skidding around talking about politics. They know as much about as my backside, anything in the world to make themselves some way interesting. Irish homemade beauties, daughter am and those who are bootmakers and publicans, I beg your pardon. Coach, I thought you were a wheelbarrow. They die down dead off their feet if they ever get a chance of walking down the Alameda on an officer's arm like me on the band night. My eyes flash my bust that they haven't passion. God help their poor head. I knew more about men and life when I was 15 than they'll all know at 50. So don't know how to sing a song like that gardener said. No man could look at my mouth and teeth smiling like that and not think of it. I was afraid he mightn't like my accent first. He's so English. All father left me in spite of his stamps. I've my mother's eyes and figure anyhow, he always said. They're so snotty about themselves. Some of those cads. He wasn't a bit like that. He was dead gone on my lips. Let them get a husband first that's fit to be looked at, and a daughter like mine, or see if they can excite a swell with money that can pick and choose whoever he wants, like Boylan, to do it 4 or 5 times, locked in each other's arms, or the voice either. I could have been a prima donna, only I married him. From Louvre's old deep down chin, back, not too much, make it double, my lady's bower. It's too long for an encore about the moated grange at twilight and vaulted rooms. Yes, I'll sing Winds That Blow from the South that he gave me after the choir stairs performance. I'll change that lace on my black dress to show off my bobs, and yes, by God, I'll get that big fan mended, make them burst with envy. My hole is itching me always when I think of him. I feel I feel some wind in me. Better go easy, not wake him, have him at it again, slobbering after washing every bit of myself, back, belly, and sides. If we had even a bath itself, or my own room anyway, I wish he'd sleep in some bed by himself with his cold feet on me. Give us room even to let a fart. God, or do the least thing better. Yes, hold them like that, a bit on my side. Piano quietly, sweet. There's that rain far away. Pianissimo. One more song. Next, please.
That was a relief. Wherever you be, let your wind go free. Who knows if that pork chop I took with my cup of tea after was quite good? With the heat, I couldn't smell anything off it. I'm sure that queer-looking man in the pork butchers is a great rogue. I hope that lamp is not smoking. Fill my nose up with smuts. Better than having him leaving gas on all night. I couldn't rest easy in my bed at Gibraltar, even getting up to see. Why am I so nervous about that, though? I like it in the winter. It's company. Oh, Lord, it was rotten cold, too, that winter. When I was only about 10, was I? Yes, I had the big doll with all the funny clothes, dressing her up and undressing. That icy cold wind skating across from those mountains, the Sierra Nevada. Standing at the fire with a little bit of a short shift I had up to hit myself. I loved dancing about in it. Then make a race back into the bed. I'm sure the fellow opposite used to be there the whole time, watching with the lights out in the summer. And I, in my skin, hopping around. I used to love myself then, stripped at the washstand, dabbing and creaming. Only when it came to the chamber performance, I put out the light too. So then there were two of us. Goodbye to my sleepfulness night anyhow. I hope he's not going to get in with those medicals, leading him astray. To imagine he's young again, coming in at 4 a.m. Must be, if not more. Still, yet the manners not to wake me. What do they find to gabber about all night, squandering money and getting drunker and drunker? Couldn't they drink water? Then he starts giving us his orders for eggs and tea and hattie and hot buttered toast. I suppose we'll have him sitting up like the king of the country, pumping the wrong end of the spoon up and down in his egg wherever he learned that from. And I love to hear him falling up the stairs of a morning with the cups rattling on the tray, and then play with the cat. She rubs up against you for her own sake, I wonder how she flees. She's as bad as a woman, always licking and licking. But I hate their claws. I wonder, do they see anything we can't? Staring like that when she sits at the top of the stairs so long, listening as I wait always. But a robber too, that lovely fresh place I bought. I think I'll get a bit of fish tomorrow. But today, is it Friday? Yes, I will. With some blancmange with blackcurrant jam, like long ago. Not those 2-pound pots of mixed plum and apple from London and Newcastle, Williams and Woods. Goes twice as far, only for the bones. I hate those eels. Cod, yes. I'll get a nice piece of cod. I'm always getting enough for 3 and forgetting. Anyway, I'm sick of that everlasting butcher's meat from Buckley's. Loin chops and a leg beef and rib steak and scrag of mutton and calves pluck. The very name is enough. Or picnic. Suppose we all gave 6 each, 5 each. And or let him pay it. And invite some other woman for him, who Mrs. Fleming, and drove out to the Flurry gates or the strawberry beds. We'd have him examining all the horses' toenails first, like he does with the letters. No, not with boiled there. Yes, with some cold veal and ham, mixed sandwiches. There are little houses down at the bottom of the banks there, on purpose. It's as hot as blazes, he says. Not a bank holiday, anyhow. Next.
I hate those ruck of Mary Ann coal boxes out for the day. Whit Monday is a cursed day, too. No wonder that bee bit him. Better this seaside. But I'd never again in this life get into a boat with him after him at Bray, telling the boatman he knew how to row. If anyone asked, could he ride the steeplechase for the Gold Cup, he'd say yes. Then it came on to get rough. The old thing cooking about and the weighted down all on my side, telling me to pull the right reins. Now pull the left. And the tide all swamping in, floods in through the bottom, and his oar slipping out of the stirrup. It's mercy we weren't all drowned. He can swim, of course. Me, no. There's no danger whatsoever. Keep yourself calm in his flannel trousers. I'd like to have tattered them down off him before all the people and give him what that one calls flagellate till he was black and blue. Do him all the good in the world. Only for that long-nosed chap, I don't know who he is, with that other beauty, Burke, out of the City Arms Hotel, was there, spying around as usual. On the slip, always where he wasn't wanted. If there was a row on, you vomit a better face. There was no love lost between us. That's one consolation. I wonder what kind is that book he brought me, Sweets of Sin, by a gentleman of fashion, some other Mr. de Kock, I suppose. People gave him that nickname going about with the tube from one woman to another. I couldn't even change my new white shoes, all ruined with the salt water, and the hat I had with that feather, all blousy and tossed on me. How annoying and provoking, because the smell of the sea excited me. Of course, the sardines and the bream and Catalan Bay around the back of the rock, they were fine, all silver in the fishermen's baskets. Old Luigi, near 100, they said, come from Genoa. And the tall old chap with the earrings. I don't like a man he have to climb up to go get at. I suppose they're all dead and rotten long ago. Besides, I don't like being alone in this big barracks of a place at night. Suppose I'll have to put up with it. I never brought a bit of salt in, even when we moved in the confusion musical academy he was going to make on the first floor drawing room with one brass plate, or Bloom's private hotel. He suggested go and ruin himself altogether. He was my father did down in Ennis. Like all things he told father he was going to do, and me. But I saw through him, telling me all the lovely places we could go for the honeymoon. Venice by moonlight with the gondolas, and the Lake of Como. He had a picture cut out of some paper of, and mandolins and lanterns. Oh, how nice, I said. Whatever I liked, he was going to do immediately, if not sooner. Will you be my man? Will you carry my can? He ought to get a leather medal with a putty rim for all he plans, he invents, then leaving us here all day. You never know. That old beggar at the door for a crust with his long story might be a tramp and put his boot in the way to prevent me shutting it, like that picture of that hardened criminal he was called in Lloyd's Weekly News. 20 years in jail. Then he comes out and murders an old woman for her money. Imagine his poor wife or mother or whoever she is, such a face you'd run miles away from. I couldn't rest easy till I bolted all the doors and windows to make sure. But it's worse again, being locked up like in a prison or in a mill house. They ought to be all shot, or the cat o' nine tails, a big brute like that would attack a poor old woman to murder her in her bed. I'd cut them off, so I would. Not that he'd be much use still. Better than nothing. The night I was sure I heard burglars in the kitchen, and he went down in his shirt with a candle and poker as if he was looking for a mouse, as white as a sheet, frightened out of his wits, making as much noise as he possibly could for the burglar's benefit. There isn't much to steal. Indeed, the Lord knows. Still, it's the feeling, especially now with Millie away. Such an idea for him to send the girl down there to learn to make photographs on account of his grandfather, instead of sending her to Scary's Academy, where she'd have to learn, not like me, getting all at school. Only he'd do a thing like that. All the same, on account of me and Boylan. That's why he did it. Next, please.
I'm certain the way he plots and plans everything out. I couldn't turn round with her in the place lately, unless I bolted the door first. Gave me the fidgets, coming in without knocking first. When I put the chair against the door, just as I was washing myself, there below with the glove, GT on your nerves, then doing the log lady all day, put her in a glass case with two at a time to look at her. If he knew she broke off the hand off that little gimcrack statue with her roughness and carelessness before she left, that I got that little Italian boy to mend so that you can't see the joint for 2 shillings, wouldn't even team the potatoes for you. Of course, she's right not to ruin her hands. I noticed he was always talking to her lately at the table, explaining things in the paper, and she pretending to understand. Sly, of course. That comes from his side of the house, and helping her into her coat. But if there was anything wrong with her, it's me she'd tell, not him. He can't say I pretend things that I'm too honest, as a matter of fact. I suppose he thinks I'm finished, out and laid on the shelf. Well, I'm not, no, nor anything like it. Well, see, now she's well on for flirting too, with Tom Devon's 2 sons, imitating me, whistling with those romps of merry girls, calling her for her can. Millie, come out, please. She's in great demand to pick what they can out of her round in Nelson Street, riding Harry Devan's bicycle at night. It's as well he sent her where she is. She was just getting out of bounds, wanting to go on the skating rink and smoking their cigarettes through their nose. I smelt it off her dress. When I was biting off the thread of the button I sewed onto the bottom of her jacket, she couldn't hide much from me, I tell you, only I oughtn't to have stitched it and it on her. It brings a parting, and the last plum pudding too, split in 2 halves. See, it comes out no matter what. They say her tongue is a bit too long for my taste. Your blouse is open too low, she says to me. The pan calling the kettle black bottom. And I had to tell her not to cock her legs up like that on show on the windowsill before all the people passing. They all look at her like me when I was her age, of course. Any old rag looks well on you. Then a great touch me not, too, in her own way, at the only way, in the Theatre Royal. Take your foot away out of that. I hate people touching me. Afraid of her life, I'd crush your skirt with the pleats. Next, please.
A lot of that touching must go on in theaters, and the crush in the dark. They're always trying to wriggle up to you, that fellow in the pit at the Gaiety for the beer bomb tree in Trilby. The last time I'll ever go there to be squashed like that for any Trilby or her bear bum every 2 minutes, tipping me there and looking away. He's a bit daft, I think. I saw him after trying to get near two stylish dressed ladies outside Switzer's window at the same little game. I recognized him on the moment, the face and everything, but he didn't remember me, yes, and she didn't even want me to kiss her at the Broadstone. Going away, well, I hope she'll get someone to dance attendance on her the way I did when she was down with the mumps and her glands swollen. Where's this and where's that? Of course, she can't feel anything deep yet. I never came properly till I was, 22 or so? It went into the wrong place always. Only the usual girl's nonsense and giggling, that Connie Connolly, writing to her in white ink on black paper sealed with sealing wax, though she clapped when the curtain came down because he looked so handsome. Then we had Martin Harvey for breakfast, dinner, and supper. I thought to myself afterwards, it must be real love if a man gives up his life for her that way for nothing. I suppose there are a few men like that left. It's hard to believe it, though, unless it really happened to me. The majority of them with not a particle of love in their natures. To find two people like that nowadays, full up of each other, that would feel the same way as you do. They're usually a bit foolish in the head. His father must have been a bit queer to go and poison himself after her still. Poor old man. I suppose he felt lost. She's always making love to my things too. The few old rags I have, wanting to put up her hair at 15. My powder too, only ruin her skin on her. She's time enough for that. All her life after, of course. She's restless knowing she's pretty with her red lips. So red, a pity they won't stay that way. I was too. But there's no use going to the fair with the thing answering me like a young fisherwoman when I asked to go for half a stone of potatoes the day we met Mrs. Joe Gallagher at the trotting matches, and she pretended not to see us in her trap with Friary the solicitor. Weren't we grand enough? Till I gave her 2 damn fine cracks across the ear for herself. Take that now for answering me like that, and that for your impudence. She had me that exasperated, of course, contradicting I was bad-tempered too, because how was it there was a weed in the tea, or I didn't sleep the night before? Cheese I ate, was it? And I told her over and over again not to leave knives crossed like that, because she had nobody to command her, as she said herself. Well, if he doesn't correct her, faith I will. That was the last time she turned on the tear tap. I was just like that myself. They daren't order me about in the place. It's his fault, of course, having the two of us slaving here instead of getting in a woman long ago. Am I ever going to have a proper servant again? Of course, then she'd see him. Coming. I'd have to let her know or she'd revenge it. Aren't they a nuisance? That old Mrs. Fleming, you have to be walking round after her putting the things into her hands, sneezing and farting into the pots. Well, of course, she's old. She can't help it. A good job I found that rotten old smelly dishcloth that got lost behind the dresser. I knew there was something, and opened the area window to let out the smell. Bringing in his friends to entertain them like that. Entertain them like the night he walked home with a dog, if you please. That might have been mad, especially Simon Dedalus' son. His father's such a criticizer, with his glasses up, with his hat tall on him at the cricket match, and a big hole in his sock. One thing laughing at the other, and his son that got all those prizes for whatever he won in the intermediate. Next, please.
Imagine climbing over the railings if anybody saw him that knew us. I wonder he didn't tear a big hole in his grand funeral trousers, as if one nature wasn't enough for anybody hawking him down into the dirty kitchen now that he's right in the head. I asked, pity it wasn't washing day. My old pair of drawers might have been hanging there up too, on the line, on an exhibition for all he'd ever care with the iron mold mark. The stupid old bundle burnt on them. You might think it was something else. And she never even rendered down the fat, I told her. And now she's going such as she was on account of her paralyzed husband. Getting worse. There's always something wrong with them. Disease. Or they'll have to go under an operation. Or if it's not that, it's drink. And he beats her. I'll have to hunt around again for someone. Every day I get up, there's some new thing. On sweet God, sweet God. Well, when I'm stretched out dead in my grave, I suppose I'll have peace. I want to get up a minute, if I'm let. Oh, Jesus. Wait, yes. The thing has come on me. Yes. Now, wouldn't that afflict you? Of course, it's all the poking and rooting and ploughing he had up in me. Now, what am I to do? Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Wouldn't that pester the soul out of the body? Unless he likes it. Some men do. God knows. There's always something wrong with us. 5 days every 3 or 4 weeks. Usually monthly auction. Isn't it simply sickening? That night it came on me like that, the one and only time we were in the box that Michael Gunn gave him to see Mrs. Kendall and her husband at the Gaiety. Something he did about insurance for him and Drimmy's. I was fit to be tied, though I wouldn't give in with that gentleman of fashion staring down at me in his glasses and him the other side of me talking about Spinoza and his soul that's dead. I suppose millions of years ago. I smiled the best I could. Next.
All in a swamp, leaning forward as if I was interested, having to sit it out. And then the last tag, I won't forget, the wife of Scarley in a hurry, supposed to be a very fast play about adultery. That idiot in the gallery hissing the woman adulteress. He shouted, I suppose. He went and had a woman in the next lane running around in the back ways after it to make up for it. And I wish he had what I had. Then he tooed, he'd boo. I bet the cat itself is better off than us. Have we too much blood up in us? Or what patience above us is pouring out of me like that? See, anyhow, he didn't make me pregnant as big as he is, and I don't want to ruin the clean sheets. The clean linen I wore brought it out too damn it, and they always want to see a stain on the bed to know you're a virgin for them. All that's troubling them. They're such fools too. You could be a widow or divorced 40 times over a dub of red ink. Would do, or blackberry juice. No, that's too poorly. Oh, Jamsy, let me out of this. Posh sweats of sin. Whoever suggested the business for women, what between clothes and cooking and children, this damned old bed too jingly like the Dickens. I suppose they could hear us away over the other side of the park till I suggested to put the quilt on the floor with the pillow under my bottom. I wonder, is it nicer in the day? I think it is. Easy. I think I'll cut all this hair off me, this scalding me. I might look like a young girl. Wouldn't he get the great suck in the next time he turned up my clothes on me, and I'd give anything to see his face. Whereas the chamber gone easy, I've a holy terror of its breaking under me after that old commode. I wonder, was I too heavy sitting on his knee? I made him sit on the easy chair purposely. When I took off only my blouse and skirt, first in the other room, he was so busy where he oughtn't to be. He never felt me. I hope my breath was sweet after those kissing comforts. Easy, God. I remember one time I could scout it out straight, whistling like a man, almost easy. Oh Lord, how noisy. I hope there are bubbles out of it like a for a wad of money from some fellow I'll have to perfume it in the morning. Don't forget, I bet he never saw a better pair of ties than that. Look how white they are. The smoothest place is right there between this bit here. How soft like a peach. Easy. God, I wouldn't mind being a man and get up on a lovely woman. Oh Lord, what a row you're making, like the Jersey lily. Easy. Oh, how the waters come down at Lahore. Next, please. Are we finished?
Duncan,
Duncan, unmute yourself.
Oh, thank you, Lois. Page numbers, please.
Goblet is 633.
Wordsworth is 670.
Okay.
Penguin is 690, small penguin.
Penguin 690, you said?
Sorry, 691.
691. Okay. Anything else?
The Random House is 755.
Random 755. Okay.
and I'm the same as Gabler, Bodley Head.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's done.
Okay. And who had the modern library? Did they disappear?
Bill, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, but
Bill.
Is not here, and he gave the page to somebody else. Okay, wow, this particular reading has had a very strong effect on me. I have a very different vision of Molly than I ever had before. And I'm actually, hopefully between now and next week, I will get the time and go back and look at some of what we've been reading, because this is very different than the usual interpretations that I have said in the past, and that I've heard people when they talk about Molly. This is really different, and it's a little shocking. That's good. That's good. It means I at least right now, it means I'm paying closer attention to what's actually going on, and not going with some past summary that someone else has either said or read or whatever. Wow.
Me too, Duncan. I had thoughts I never thought about her before.
Yeah, it's really interesting. This is really nitty gritty, down on the ground stuff.
Can you elaborate on that, both of you? What seems new to you this time?
Okay, well, at the risk of being looked at oddly, the usual thing is that Molly is, is portraying the feminine spirit, and that she's got this connection with the earth, and that Leopold is kind of disconnected and all that. I'm reading a very discontented woman,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
really discontented, but has no idea what to do about it, except she has her love affair with Boylan, which
Yeah.
obviously is not satisfying her.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like Leopold's coming home to his wife and she has been, to use crude expressions, properly serviced by her lover, and she's in deep contentment and relaxation. It's not that at all. She is really struggling with just being.
Mm.
But there's a lot more than that. That's just a little taste, but that came across to me very clearly today, along with a bunch of other stuff.
Mm.
So I'm kind of glad we we don't have that many pages to read for next time, which means we'll have a little more time to sit around and talk about how we all, perceive this and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. But, I'm in a little bit of a state of shock.
Isn't that exciting though? Isn't that wonderful that you can read
Yeah.
this after so many times of having read it and all of a sudden there's something fresh?
It is. It is. And not only fresh, but also challenging. And once again, I learned that James Joyce is really diving very, very deep with very clear eyes, which is ironic considering how blind he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, just all sorts of things. I mean, she's got complaints about Leopold, of course. She's got complaints about Millie. She's got complaints about herself. There's echoes of a more mature Gertie McDowell in here,
Mhm. Mhm.
who is also keeping some past memories in that kind of uh, naive, girlish way. It's quite.
Hmm. Well, I'll just
Also,
Mhm.
Jane, go ahead.
One thing, I don't want to go into all the other things I was thinking right now, but it kind of struck me that she's having this affair with Boyle and she feels no guilt about it at all. There's just no guilt there. That's kind of amazing.
I think there's even a certain anger about it,
Well, she's proud of it. She's happy about it.
but there's still a little bit of anger.
Yeah, she's angry, but no guilt, which is
No.
striking to me.
Well, she's even planning on what she's going to get out of Boylan.
Oh yeah.
I mean, down to how many blouses and how many of them.
Yeah.
This is my first time ever reading it, and Molly comes across as being unsatisfied.
Mm-hmm.
But she was satisfied sexually with Boylan, though. I thought that was clear.
But she wants more than that, doesn't she?
Oh,
Yeah.
she does. Yeah.
What struck me was that she's a very self-aware woman and is very clear in her mind. But I still think she feels trapped. You would imagine the logic of where she goes after the affair with Boylan would be to leave Bloom, that he's too much of a fuddy-duddy for her. But I don't think she's going to do that, particularly set against the backdrop of the time.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And even the satisfaction with Boylan, I do agree with you that she is satisfied on one hand, and yet on the other, she finds that he's very rough with her.
Mm-hmm.
And so even that she gives and then she takes away, indicating, I think, a general dissatisfaction, which is what I think, Duncan, is what you pointed out.
Yeah. This is any satisfaction she's had with Boylan is extremely temporary. I mean, she's already looking forward to 4 days from, and a little tiny thing that I noticed today for the first time is she was aware of when Bloom climbed over the fence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed that.
That's because he told her. She wasn't aware of it until Bloom told her. Bloom told her all of those things.
When did he tell her?
When he came up to bed.
In the last episode we read, when they got to bed, there's the interrogation, and he tells her all kinds of things.
Oh,
He tells her about the,
Right.
oh, right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you, Bill.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had the same question.
I would also point out that I've read this a number of times. This is my 6th or 7th time. My first time, I've attempted to read it aloud and unprepared. And I think it was a great exercise because it just shows that her mind's going off like popcorn. And that again might indicate a general dissatisfaction as opposed to kind of a sort of smooth and linear thinking process, which doesn't happen.
Mm.
It is linear only in a rough hewn kind of way, I would think.
Yeah, it's kind of choppy. It's very choppy. I mean, this is not, now, believe me, any conclusions that I'm coming to now are not really conclusions. They're just temporary ideas. But this is going back to the thing. This is not a contented person.
I don't see it as being anything particularly special or unique in any way. I think she's just, most people aren't content with, for whatever reason. They have plans, they have dreams, especially a young girl's dream of love, and the reality is never up to the dream in anybody's experience.
Right.
So I don't see her as being particularly trapped in any dissatisfactory way, or even that she's even thinking about leaving Bloom. She's never going to leave Bloom.
Oh, I don't think she's going to leave Bloom. No, I don't.
I think for everything, I think she does love Leopold, and for everything else, I think he does love her. I mean, they've got some issues, unresolved issues over the death of Rudy. And that's lingered for maybe too long for them to fix in any way that's ever going to be at all satisfactory. But I think they have an opportunity to begin that, and I see some of that, some glimmers of that. But I as you say, every time I read it, I get something different out of it as well. There's always something new.
Well, this has been marvelous for me. I mean, it's always marvelous, but I mean, I really think that that I've opened up my eyes a little wider this time, and put less preconceptions between me and the actual text. Whether how much of what I feel I realize today will stabilize and be a long-term interpretation, I have no idea. But I am grateful in the reading for having these ideas come in. And it gives me even more respect for what Mr. James Joyce has done here. And it's given, this is probably once again reaching too far, but since we did just read the second half of The Dead on Monday, I'm seeing more of a relationship between that and Ulysses. So,
Yeah, I mean,
so,
there's something. I have a strange relationship with it because it's a man writing about a woman, and I just think, I mean, it's interesting that Bill said that the interrogation or whatever at the end of the last chapter, when she knew something that went on. I think there's a lot of Molly. I think there's a notion in me that he interrogated Molly about a whole lot of things, and her boy, not Molly, Nora. You know, there's a whole lot of that's very much what, you know, it's strange as a woman listening to this and a man telling it. That's
Yeah, I agree.
I think even perhaps just as much as interrogating Molly, he was probably listening very carefully to her comments and complaints. And instead of reacting, I mean, the typical thing is when someone complains is to belittle it or ignore it or not hear it. But it seems to me that he was taking notes and thinking about it. You know, why did she say that? What does this mean that she has this complaint? And that like we've discovered in so much of our other readings, you know, he's seriously thinking about it, not only in a relationship manner, but even in kind of an existential manner.
So there were other influences, yeah.
Which is very brave and very open. Anyway, I hope everyone can come back for the final reading next week. Okay.
Oh, you have it's climax of the whole book.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Okay, well, great. Any questions, comments, concerns before we wrap it up for today?
No.
All right.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Holidays,
Yes, thank you very much.
Happy holidays to everyone.
Yes.
Yes. Merry Christmas.
Happy solstice and happy Christmas.
Happy
See you next
Hanukkah,
week.
Kwanzaa,